Bender.
And I'm here with Sydney, and this is BS Astrology.
What's up, y'all? We are back. We know that we took a week off because we had some sickness befall our houses, like collectively befall our houses. So
Just COVID took over.
yeah,
It was a thing.
post-conference sick and
Yep.
also recovery. So
Yep.
yeah, we're back. We're back in it. And today, as we are recording, we're actually recording on June 9th, which is great. Jupiter is entering Cancer. So she is.
I'm so happy. So happy.
Finally leaving the sign of her detriment and entering the sign of her exaltation. It's like, I had to go through hell and now I'm here.
Now I'm here.
Doesn't that? It's kind of what it is.
It's like, very like Phoenix rising out of the ashes kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of too much information and too many stories to maybe parse through, including like propaganda, I think we are now going to be experiencing the cup overflow if in terms of like emotional connection and just emotions in general.
Emotions. Yeah. Security.
So, yeah.
I think it could play some interesting roles in obviously what's going on politically right now.
Yeah, I think there's going to be I think that's probably actually really the Jupiter and Cancer story is about like this whole idea of like patriotism and like homeland security and feeling secure in home and safety for families of all types.
Where we put our loyalties. Things like that.
Yeah. And there's some interesting things about, I mean, just to know in general too, Jupiter in Cancer, its expression and how it works will change every 2.5 days. So it's kind of like, while this is a longer transit of Jupiter in Cancer being here for about, it's like a year and a couple of months. I think it's like 14 months, maybe max, including all the retrograde stuff. Every 2.5 days. So think of long transit, and then every 2.5 days, there's a little shift in between it. So, when she's in water signs, it's going to be pretty nice. When the moon's in water signs, maybe not with Scorpio, but I just feel that way about.
I think it could.
It
could bring out some of the better qualities of Scorpio depending on other transits.
Yeah,
potentially.
But whenever we get that moon in Gemini, I think we're going to experience some of the things that we've been dealing with here. So it'll be interesting to kind of maybe mentally track every like 28 days whenever the moon is in Gemini and be like, oh, it's that again. That feeling of too much.
If y'all have like a period calendar, start making a Jupiter calendar.
Yeah. I mean, everybody should be tracking the moon anyways, because then you just kind of know what's working for you and what's not working for you.
I would say more than any other thing, if you're only ever going to be like an armchair astrologer and you're going to be saying like, what do I need to be tracking? It's the moon.
It's definitely the moon.
Yeah. Like that's going to affect you every single day, every single minute on it, honestly, because a transit that happens in the morning with the moon could be very different from what's happening with your moon later on in the day.
Which moon do you dislike the most for your chart?
For my chart, hold on, let me go through the signs real quick. Aries. I do not like moon in Pisces.
Yeah, because it opposes all of your Virgo.
It opposes all of my Virgo in the 12th house. And it's just like asking me to dig into emotions that I like
would rather not.
Yeah, I'm just not that person. And so when I have to go there, I'm like, ew. And then I would say Scorpio. I mean, like I've got so little water in my chart. Anytime there's a water moon, I'm just like a fish out of water in water. So yeah.
I get it. Yeah. Whenever the moon goes into Scorpio, it's my bad place because it opposes my entire Gemini stellium, and it just makes me feel really like vulnerable and really exposed and very emotional. Like I almost cried like 4 times yesterday for absolutely no reason. Yeah, so every time I start to get into that space too, I'm like, where's the moon? Pray tell.
I think I know.
And then it, like, lo and behold, it's always in Scorpio. So
okay, quick flip side. Yeah, favorite moon.
I mean, I always enjoy Moon in Gemini because it's just it works for me because my natal moon is in Gemini and it's
Mhm.
angular, it's culminating, so it's very strong in my chart. It's probably the most peregrine and strong thing that's happening in my chart. So she's really loud, but I love fire moons.
Mhm.
They're really fun. They just kind of
You
like
do love fire
they're
moons.
really fun for me. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
you're here to be a silly little clown
Yeah.
too, you know. And
But without getting too heady like air
yeah,
signs can get,
and
yeah.
I don't mind a Pisces moon too,
Mhm.
just because it's in my seventh house,
Yeah,
so it's like
that's
nice for connection.
I'm sure that's a little more pleasant for
Always
you.
love moon in Taurus. It's just
I see,
like,
I also love Moon in
I mean, but
Taurus.
who doesn't?
Who doesn't love Moon in Taurus?
Except for maybe the Scorpios
Also, so many of my favorite people in the whole world are
have
Moon in
Taurus things,
Taurus.
or
They're
yeah,
Moon in Taurus or our Taurus sun.
yeah. I mean, we know how to party in our beds,
I was gonna say party inside in our
eating
jammies.
snacks. Okay, but
Let's jump into it.
yeah, so this is episode 22, knowing that last week was supposed to be 22, but
Mhm.
this is 22. So we're filming this on Monday, June 9th. We're getting started around 12:50 p.m. This is before Jupiter enters Cancer today,
Mhm.
in just about an hour from now, which is
So cool. I love that we're filming during that ingress. That's fun.
so things to keep in mind for this episode will be for June 10th through the 16th. So this is Tuesday through Monday.
Mhm.
Mercury will have just entered Cancer.
Mm.
That would have happened at Sunday at 4 p.m. Jupiter just entered Cancer Monday at 2:02 p.m. Mars is within orb of a square to Uranus all week. So we can expect like sudden interruptions, anger, outbursts, violence, cutting, fissures,
Mhm.
fractures.
No matter what, it's going to be jarring.
Yeah,
Though, these are like shocking
shocking
events
events.
that can be violent or just very confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Very physical.
yeah.
These are physical signs. They're bestial signs,
Mhm.
Leo and Taurus. So we got the lion versus the bull. They're
Mhm.
both big and meaty.
Yep. Big meaty guys.
Big meaty guys.
Sharp things somewhere on them.
Some other features, we get the sun square the nodes this week, so we're at the eclipse midpoint, which I
Mhm.
think is interesting too. Once Jupiter enters Cancer, we have it within a 1 degree square to Saturn, so we know that there's something economic going on, and I think it's going to be an awareness of really the cost of that tariff run.
Yeah.
I think there's
Yeah.
stuff about that stuff. And then also just around like laws and freedom and everything there. That will perfect on June 15th, so just a few days from now. Jupiter is also within orb to a square to Neptune, which doesn't perfect for another week or so.
Mhm.
So we have some big guys making big aspects, like big Ptolemaic aspects, which I think means like, big awareness, big crisis.
Mhm.
Jupiter's on the world point once it enters Cancer, and it will be there until Saturday. So we need to be paying attention to Jupiterian things because they're telling us a story. Moon is out of bounds as fuck until Saturday morning around 9 a.m., and Mercury is out of bounds until June 20th.
Mhm.
That's a lot.
It's gonna be so emo.
Yeah.
Chanel.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be emotional as hell.
Yeah, all of the Cancerian energy after we've just been in like an air, like just an air run,
Mhm.
is like, hey, you've been thinking about it and talking about it, but how do you feel about
Yeah.
it?
It's literally like that. Like you've been running around being like, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. And then it finally like hits you and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna love editing that. So sorry.
I'm not going to edit it. I'm so sorry. But it's also good for us to keep in mind too, where is Cancer in your chart?
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the grand pizza wheel of the sky, you're going to want to look at where that little Cancer glyph is and what pizza slice essentially is lit up. For me, it's my 11th house of friends, of associations, groups, orgs, hopes and wishes. I will tell you that Jupiter going into Cancer into my 11th, when like really one of the things, my Venus is in there by whole sign.
Mhm.
So it'll come in and hang out. And I'm like, I wonder if one of my biggest wishes will come true. That would be so cool.
That would be so nice.
It's for revenge,
Let's
but
do
it's fine.
Did this all come up when you were watching that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
My deep hopes for revenge.
Yeah.
That's very Gemini moon.
Yeah. And also Taurus stuff. Like,
yeah.
Tauruses know how to hold a grudge.
Get my just desserts.
Where's Cancer in your chart?
4th house.
Okay.
So family, roots, home.
Oh, you can make your house pretty.
Yeah, I can make my house pretty. And I really think that I am definitely coming into the culmination point of like, why did I come here?
Yeah.
You know, like how, like, what does it mean to make this place my home? You know?
Oh, I like that for you.
I do too. That's
and
why
Jupiters are nice. And what else?
Yeah.
Where is Jupiter in your chart?
Jupiter is in Virgo in my 6th. So Virgo's, well, depending on house system, it sometimes goes into my 5th, which I
if
like
it
to
by
think
whole
it's
sign,
that
is
way.
it in your 5th?
No, whole sign.
Okay.
No.
So you're also
no, I'm really reaching for that 5th house, honey.
You're also gonna want to pay attention to where Jupiter is in your house.
Yeah.
What house Jupiter is in, and what so where Pisces and Sag are. So there's like really 4 things you want to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Where Cancer is in your chart.
Cancer.
Where Jupiter exists in your chart. Where Sag and Pisces are in your chart. All of those things have something to do with this Jupiter and Cancer story, which will be playing out for the next year.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a lot.
That was a lot.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we're definitely going to keep this one to an hour.
Okay. So
anyway, just to close off, because I have a little bit of a sad Jupiter. For me, part of the reason I've been waiting for Jupiter to go into its exaltation is because it makes it really props up.
It makes it happy.
Just makes it happy.
And it'll sextile it, which is
and
nice.
then it does
it
sextile
goes, hey,
it.
you want a little hug?
Yeah, which honestly, all the Cancers in my life do that.
All you've been doing is being of service over there. Would you like a little hug?
Would you
a
like
little spa day?
Do you want a cookie and some more milk? Yeah. Kind of thing, yeah. So
I get it.
Yeah, I dig Cancer energy. I do.
It'll be good.
Shout out to my dad. OG Cancer in my life. But anyway, so let's jump into Tuesday.
Okay.
Shall we?
Tuesday, June 10th. That's Mars's day. And first aspect of the day, Mars and Leo trine Chiron and Aries. So we got this like intuitive fire trine.
I was gonna say there's like a motivating healing happening here. Like we're motivated to heal.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, whenever Chiron is involved, we know that some sort of access to the wound is happening, whether it is by, force or by permission, like a gentle, like, hey, I want to interact with you, and like, what's going on with me, and how do I go about it? So it's definitely taking some sort of action in facilitating one's own healing around certain wounds, possibly mostly ego stuff.
Yeah. Leo and Aries together. It's definitely going to be about you, what you are healing from. Yeah. And then Tuesday is fairly quiet after that because it's a lot of minor aspects.
Yeah, but we got that 10:12 a.m. This is, I think it's the biggest aspect of the day, and I think it's going to kind of impregnate the air with a sense of anxiety, of mental unrest. Because we get Mercury in Cancer, quincunx Pluto in Aquarius, retrograde Pluto in Aquarius. It's in the early degrees, but Mercury, Pluto, quincunxes, it's like, well, I mean, Pluto wants you to go deep. And Mercury in Cancer wants to kind of swim in like the emotional ocean. It communicates emotively. It's speaking through an emotional lens. And so when we get the quincunx, we get an anxiety point. So it's like, it's being asked to adjust and it doesn't quite feel right. And that just kind of impregnates the air. That's how I kind of see it, because the sesame squares that happen with the moon later in the evening just kind of double down on it.
Yeah. Yep.
Don't you think?
I agree. Yeah. And then we're talking about Pluto and Aquarius. Yeah, I think just like Cancer and Aquarius have an uncomfortable relationship, right? So that quincunx is
Yeah.
Uh,
Cancer's like, I
I
feel.
feel, and
And
Aquarius
it's
is
like,
like,
nope.
yeah, it's like good for you, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's definitely
And Aquarius doesn't even really want to talk about the feelings, like
yeah.
they'll like want to intellectualize things to the point that you don't even recognize that they're talking about feelings anymore.
Yeah. They like it's like
Um,
connecting through broad strokes,
yeah,
like broad thought
yeah,
strokes.
and that makes Cancer not feel safe. That's not like a safe feeling for Cancer.
Yeah.
Cancer wants to feel deeply considered as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's definitely some conversation happening there between like safety of self
Mm-hmm.
and like there's just been like so much Aquarius stuff happening this year. I
Yeah.
feel like we are always going back to that conversation of like the collective
Yeah.
versus the self.
Yeah. And Moon is
So
in Sag
mhm.
during this day though. So I mean, Moon in Sag after like I said, after it's in Scorpio, it's always like
Some levity.
whew,
Yep.
but also there can be a escapism kind of thing. I mean, all of the mutable as far as I'm concerned, all of the
Mm-hmm.
mutable moons kind of love like they love their little forms of escapism.
Mm-hmm.
And Moon and
You would
Sag,
know.
I would. Moon and Sag really wants to kind of like philosophize its feelings. So it just like
Mm-hmm.
kind of it's a different kind of detachment. It's just like, well, what
Yeah.
if?
Just wants to
And
like wax poetic about
yeah.
the nature of feelings.
Yeah.
Like it wants to philosophize on the nature of feelings.
Yeah. And so if
Mm-hmm.
it can't really access like the emotional body, I think that this kind of adds to again that free floating anxiety that will kind of be around. And
Yeah.
we're being asked to make some sort of adjustment in how we're speaking about how we're feeling, I
Mm-hmm.
think, with that quincunx.
Definitely.
So, for all things considered, we also keep into mind that right now there's a lot going on in the world.
Yeah. A lot of stuff.
A lot of really scary things.
Yeah.
And I think that anxiety kind of shows in these aspects.
Yeah. I would say that like Tuesday might overall, as far as like things actually happening, it might be a little low key, but I think internally there's a lot of healing and considering and maybe ruminating
Yeah. I mean, Mercury's
happening.
still within,
Mm-hmm.
it's within orbs to Jupiter, Juniper.
Juniper.
Aw.
Aw.
To Jupiter. So, our expression, our mental expression of things and how we're talking about things could still be a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
And the moon is out of bounds.
Yeah.
We are feeling big feelings,
Big
even and
feelings.
feelings that we're not necessarily super comfortable with because
Mm-mm.
it's Sag, it's not in a
Yeah.
water sign. Yeah, and we're also getting close to a full moon.
Yeah. So with that said, let's jump to Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right? Wednesday, June 11th, because right as we get into Wednesday, 12:43 a.m., we have a big, fat, juicy, uncomfortable full moon in Sagittarius at 20 degrees.
Yeah.
And the moon will be completely out of bounds with a 28-degree declination.
Yeah.
So
it's
this is
like
just
the furthest, it's like pretty much almost the furthest it can go out of bounds.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And we've talked about out of bounds before. Things can just feel really, really magnified.
Mm-hmm.
Things can feel dramatic.
Yeah.
Right.
And full moons bring the drama.
Yeah, full moons bring the drama even when they're not out of bounds. So I feel
Yeah.
like this one is just going to be like,
yeah.
Keep in mind that we also have that Mars Uranus square happening. So I just feel like everything's going to feel really explosive.
Oh no, super explosive.
Yeah.
And we also keep in mind too that the lights, the moon
Mm-hmm.
and the sun are ruled by the Jupiter and Mercury, which are in Cancer, which are close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this out of bounds energy of the moon also basically impregnating Jupiter and Mercury. So
Amazing.
it's just, yeah, I think it's real big.
Mm-hmm.
I think it feels real, like a live wire, like an emotional live wire.
Talk about the 21st mansion.
Oh yeah,
this is interesting.
Yeah. So, back to the mansions of the moon, my
Mm-hmm.
side hustle, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. So,
But this one in particular, I'm interested in.
Yeah. So we are in Albalda, which is also known as the city. It's the 21st mansion of the moon. By the way, this book is called The Mansions of the Moon by Christopher Warnock. He is a still living astrologer. He does astrological magic.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's cool. So, a couple of things to keep in mind about this particular mansion. The keywords are destructive enmity, internal conflict, people or forces at odds, and division. The Picatrix says that the image of the 21st mansion, Al Balda, is that of a man having two faces, which makes sense for the mutability of this
Yep.
lunation.
Mm-hmm.
With one facing forward and one facing behind in our image, the two-faced man sits on a rich carpet and cushions with one hand upraised. Behind him are the walls of a great city, spires and minarets and towers, a crescent moon and stars. So this mansion is ending the third cycle of 7 mansions. So it is a significator of endings. It is a sign of enmity and anger, argument and conflict. And if we just take into account what literally is happening in the sky right now,
Yep.
and what is happening in places like Los Angeles and other, we're in California. And so
Mm-hmm.
like now watching and hearing of other little things popping up in different cities, I'm wondering if this what's happening in LA is going to basically uprise in the major cities here in all
Yeah.
of California.
Yeah.
Like the spread.
Yeah. I think it will.
Because Jupiter in Cancer likes to spread.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like
and
think of
also
water
it
like
will
spreading.
interestingly also uh the California government is also pushing back against it, which
Yeah,
like
which
you
will
can,
be
which is complicated, right? I'm not saying like they're perfect, but there is an interesting thing happening where even the elected officials that are representing this state are
yeah.
like, we don't do that.
Newsom is a psycho, but he's our psycho.
He's he's now my psycho.
Yeah.
I just inherited him.
Yeah. I have such there's so many things about his policies that I dig until he
Mhm.
talks about homeless folks.
Yeah, he's got a thing.
Like once
He's
it
got a
comes
hang up.
yeah, once it comes to folks who don't have houses or drugs, like it gets real gnarly and it's wild because you got to wonder just like what's going on there. But
I wonder what his 12th house is.
yes.
I feel like that's some 12th house shit that he's
Oh
not dealing with.
yeah.
Anyway, uh,
But yeah, so we are one of the little key phrases in here. It's like playing an end game, time to cut losses. I
mhm,
think that full moons being a culmination and awareness, something's coming to light. I think we are getting like the full brunt, essentially, or awareness of what this government is willing to do to its own people in order to
yep,
maintain some sense of control, or actually just terrorizing
yeah,
people.
how to maintain power. Um,
Yeah.
like I think that's the big. I like, yeah, I think,
And
and
especially
almost it's okay. Here's my thing is that it's almost like it would almost be too kind for them to like actively want to harm us. It's that they just absolutely don't care about us to the point that we're disposable and
mhm.
they're willing to dispose in order to maintain power,
And I was
right?
I was also thinking about like the two-facedness of it all
Yeah.
because like when Biden was president, and they were talking about releasing the National Guard and how like that would be was a violation of our constitutional rights, and now they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also seeing just the bifurcation of government even more, where it's like black and white, good and bad, government, yeah, not government, Democrats versus Republicans. And like there's so many people that are asking for a third option. They're asking for any other option besides these two options. And I think to a certain extent, there's something about an awareness that the people are having in seeking their freedom, right? We have that moon in Sag. This is the people looking for their freedom.
Yep.
Um, that has to do with the options being presented to us are very two-faced, and they're literally two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's something about that, like something needs to come to light for us to understand what's going on. And considering that Jupiter will still be on a world point,
Mm-hmm.
which is being fed by that moon in Sag, there's something very not just pregnant. I mean, it's anoretic, but something that affects all of us on a larger scale.
Yeah.
That we're very aware of what this Jupiter and Cancer story is for us for the next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of the other features of this full moon, Saturn and Neptune within 1 degree of conjuncting each other, which
Dissolving of
is
structures.
dissolving of structures. Absolutely. We're pouring acid on
Mhm.
these Neptunian acid, and it's all just melting. So that's coming within 1 degree. Saturn is also within a 2 degree, is within 2 degrees of an exact sextile to Pluto. So again,
Mhm.
we're getting more into these like depths of feelings.
And also restructuring. Like,
Yeah,
there's, like, a dissolving of structures that's simultaneously
hmm
coming with, like, a complete like,
yeah,
a willing restructuring. I mean, it's
yeah,
a sextile.
right,
It's something that we want to
yeah,
happen,
hmm
but, like, then we have the squares.
yeah. And then we have the squares. We've also got oh, and Mercury and Venus in perfect sextile
That will yeah, that'll
later that day.
later on Wednesday, yeah.
Yep. So, and then Mercury barely separating from a Neptune square.
Yeah.
Oh, and Saturn and Jupiter within orb to square. So those are the squares that we're talking about. We're talking about Mercury is still in a Neptune square,
Mhm.
and Saturn and Jupiter are within orb to square.
Yeah. So I think we're still confused. Would you agree?
We're confused. Absolutely, we're confused, and I think that's. I mean, Neptune. Anytime you're still within a Neptune, particularly a Neptune conjunction, I think it's necessary confusion. It's like we can't possibly know what's going to come after it dissolves.
Mhm.
We have to witness the dissolve
Yeah.
first, and that's hard for Saturn. Saturn doesn't like to dissolve its boundaries,
Yeah.
so I do think it's gonna. Oh, I just popped this.
Oh no.
It's getting all over me.
It's
Sorry.
time. Mercury
um,
being barely separated from the Neptune square, it doesn't quite understand like all of the messages and information yet, right?
no.
Like it's still walking through the fog.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was particularly interesting. I mean, it's an outer planet, but the sun is sesqui square Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that just adds to like the deep frustration that people are feeling about not necessarily knowing the way through or where to turn in
Mm-hmm.
order to get what they need done to get the freedom that they deserve.
Mm-hmm. Um,
It's such a juicy full moon.
it's so juicy, dude. It is gnarly. And then at 5:12 a.m., that moon in Sag, after it's fully culminated in the full moon,
Mhm.
a few hours later, we've got it squaring the nodes.
Yeah, so it's
So
like choice
it's just
point.
like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah. And it goes, okay, so what are you going to do about it?
Yeah,
Here's this thing that came to light. Now you have to make a choice.
yeah.
Do you go North Node in Pisces,
Mm-hmm.
compassion and forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
right? The safety and security for all, like vision, dream, all of that? Or do you do the South Node in Virgo thing? Analyze, overcorrect, freak out, have anxiety.
The Virgo stellium over here is saying yes. That is what I'm gonna end up
You
doing.
know, and it's a
Yep,
choice, and
it's a choice.
it's a critical choice for the people. If we think about just mundanely, the moon means the people. The moon
Yep,
comes to this halfway point between the nodes, our future and our past, and it
yeah,
says you have a choice right here.
yeah. And I think that like Moon and Sag is always asking us to reach for our higher selves,
Mhm.
right? It's definitely asking us to speak to our higher selves. We're starting to.
Yeah.
I like to think of Sag as like if you think of the wheel. Sag is kind of like us moving into like moving away from the ego and starting to move into collective consciousness. And I
Mhm.
think that's kind of the space that Sag takes up is kind of us just starting to understand
Mhm.
our role in the collective
Yeah.
consciousness. Um,
We get 1258. The moon in Sag is going to trine Mars and Leo, so it's going to feel we're going to feel motivated.
we're gonna feel motivated.
Let's get
I
it
think that's gonna
done.
be a nice part of this. Is
Yeah.
like there's gonna be like with everything so out of bounds, the feelings are gonna be huge. This aspect is going to say, but let's do something about it. Like let's
Mhm.
do some. Which I guess if feelings are feeling really overblown, maybe it's not the best time to act on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think whenever
But
we feel
but
motivated to do
mm-hmm,
later in the afternoon, 426, we get the moon in Sag, quincunx, Uranus, and Taurus. It's like
mm-hmm,
being forced to make some sort of emotional or intuitive adjustment.
yep,
Like you have to change.
yep,
You have to change whatever you're thinking or something about your habits or, something how you're expressing yourself has to shift here.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then we get the moon entering Capricorn. It's like, simmer down now.
Capricorn is such a fuddy-duddy to Sag. It really is. Like
It's such
it's
a
like, bro, chill.
yeah, it's such a strange like yeah, it's like
Mhm.
it's like the moon in Sag finally hits the wall and
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. And the Capricorn has to come and like peel it off,
Yeah, it's
clean
like
it up.
we got work to
We
do.
got work to do, baby.
But the moon in Capricorn is going to be ruled by that Saturn in Aries.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be significantly spicier than we now all of our Capricorn moons, right?
Mhm.
And all of our Aquarius moons are going to be weirdly spicy.
Yeah. I agree. I
Like
agree.
they're going to have
Or I
an
think anyone
edge.
with major placements in those
Yeah.
signs, if they're contacting
Oh
them,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's just going to be some spice
There's
there.
going to be an edge to you.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be opposing Jupiter in Cancer,
Yeah.
which is also going to add a little bit of spice.
Amplification. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I always think it's weird when like the moon comes and opposes its ruler.
Yeah.
No, sorry. The moon comes and opposes the planet that has the moon as its ruler.
Mm-hmm.
I said that right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did. You
Okay.
got it.
The
I
second
knew it. I
time.
knew what you were trying to get to. Yeah.
Because it's always just like it's not really quite Clash of the Titans because the moon is so fast.
Mm-hmm.
But it there's just like an awareness,
An awareness,
right?
yeah.
An emotional awareness.
And like a distinct conversation happening
Yeah.
between the two.
And
Right?
definitely something about our feelings, right? Something about how we're feeling, how we're expressing ourselves.
Yeah. And kind of like how the ways how our feelings have influenced how we are structuring our lives or vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. Um, the ways in which we structure ourselves, the ways in which we think critically about things, how does that affect our emotional landscape?
Yeah.
You know? Um,
I kind of feel like where moon in Capricorn, like its phrases no. With its opposition to Jupiter in Cancer, it's like no.
No. With the face.
You know,
It really is though. It is.
that's what it kind of seems
God,
like to me.
you just channeled every moon in Capricorn I've ever known also, where they're just like, no.
No. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
love moon in Capricorn. I love Capricorns in general. Like, you know,
Mhm.
salty, but they know what they want to do and they know
Yeah.
how to do it.
I feel like
they're the people
earning
with the
the
plan.
love of a Capricorn is like the most hard-earned kind of love.
Yeah,
Like when
you
I feel loved
get
by
past
it,
the boundary and then they're like ooey gooey.
they can be so.
Yeah.
I know, but like you feel like you've really earned it with a Capricorn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then oh yeah, and then at 9 p.m. Moon and Cap is going to square Saturn in Aries.
Doesn't
And
feel
like you
great.
said, doesn't feel great.
Spicy.
Especially because, like you said, this moon is already being ruled by that
Yeah.
Saturn in Aries. So this is uh
Is it like wanting
is-
to establish different boundaries? It's like
Yeah.
I need to do something about these
or
boundaries I have.
yeah, being put in a place where it's like you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Right? Like that full moon, I think as full moons do, they're gonna bring things into the light.
Mhm.
Right. And now that moon square Saturn is going to be like shit. Now I can't just ignore this. Right. I
Yeah.
can't just pretend it's not there anymore.
Crisis of
So now-
consciousness square.
Yeah.
That's the third quarter square, I believe.
Yeah. And I think that's reinforced by the fact that about an hour and a half later, 10:50, kind of our closing aspect for the day is Moon and Cap square Neptune in Aries. So I really think there's kind of this thing of like things being brought to light and like you can keep trying to ignore whatever it is you've been trying to ignore or escape from. But I think these squares are going to kind of say like, or there's going to be something brought to you where it's like, I literally cannot ignore it anymore, despite how much I want to.
But also,
Right.
can it see what it has to do? Because that square to Neptune does bring confusion. Neptune confuses, it dissolves. It can dissolve.
Yeah.
It can disillusion.
I'm kind of thinking because Mercury is just starting to separate from Neptune at this point. I'm kind of wondering if it is like you are going to kind of get a glimpse into where you're delusional.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe not enough that maybe it's not enough that you'll absolutely know what to do with it, but you will kind of have this moment. You ever have this moment where somebody just like tells you straight to your face like, "Hey, you're being delusional about this," and you're still just kind of like okay, I'm still gonna choose to believe that, right?
No.
You're just, I know. I don't have to worry about that with you.
No. I'm so willing to admit when like I'm wrong or I don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when I know I'm right that I'm a monster. I think is the thing because I'm like, listen, my memory is jacked, but once I'm locked in,
Once I'm locked in,
I'm locked in, buddy.
There's no hope.
There's none.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, so I think that Wednesday is probably, I think Wednesday is the day that we're going to be dealing with a lot. I think we're going to be feeling a lot, experiencing a lot, and probably seeing a lot. There's a lot of things that could potentially come to light that would literally impact how we see the news. Everything with social media, like because we have Uranus, right? That's can be like technology and social media, how people connect on like the wild web, world wide web, www.
World Wide Web.
World Wide Web. Sorry, I'm Al Gore.
I know. I was gonna say your early millennial is showing.
Thank you. And then
welcome to the World Wide Web.
And Jupiter has everything to do with like publishing, and like literally also social media stuff, like the things that you choose to put out there. And I'm just wondering too, so many things about law. What is right and what is wrong is like so on our fucking docket.
with that full moon and Sag, absolutely.
Yeah.
Law and legality.
And the information we consume.
And also like law versus what's actually moral or ethical, right? Because those things don't necessarily align. Talk about fucking
Jupiter and Gemini was all about like,
no,
that's not moral. That's not moral.
That's not moral, but who cares? Wait.
Yeah. So let's move into Thursday, June 12th. There's not a lot of aspects in this day. So I still think that this is like, cleaning up the debris of the day before.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of aspects on this day after what happened the day before.
No, I think things are emerging. We have the semi-square to Pluto from the moon early in the morning, and then a moon biquintile Uranus. There's still something.
Is that a semi-square or semi-sextile?
Semi-sextile, sorry. Yeah. So it's still like something's kind of emerging, but we're not quite there. The biquintile to Uranus from the moon is like, is sudden insights or feeling a little different.
Yeah. I think the sudden insights, I like that. Yeah. Right. And I think that like, since it's at 4:00 in the morning, if you're East Coast, it's going to be like 7 a.m. So kind of like waking up feeling a little bit like you've been able to subconsciously process some of what happened the night before.
It's like an intuitive knowing.
Yeah.
Like a different kind of emotional wavelength.
Yeah. And then that like brings us into the really nice at 7:22 a.m. There's a moon trine Venus in Taurus.
Supportive trine.
Earth trine.
Oh, we love an Earth trine. And I think it's good for us to have that Earth trine because I think that the full moon feels really destabilizing.
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels very heady. I think that full moon the day before feels very, very heady. And yeah, with the Neptune square, I think it can definitely just feel destabilizing and like monkey mind a little bit. Yeah. And it feels like it's like the Capricorn trine Taurus the next day like swoops in just in time and is like, okay, but you're still a human being with like a flesh sack and you have to get up and start your day, right?
I do think that this day is good news, bad news bears. I think in the morning we are lulled into a sense of security and safety that does not exist after 8 a.m.
You're like, it's all lies.
No, I really do. But like an Earth trine is so chill because it's like
I love Earth trines.
I know what's going on in my day.
Yeah, don't ruin the Earth trine.
Here's my list.
You're telling me the list isn't gonna work.
No, I do not think so. 8:55 a.m. Moon opposes Mercury in Cancer. So we're having some sort of like emotional, like verbal outburst about like how we're feeling.
Yeah, and Mercury, as far as like trying to make a to-do list, Mercury and water signs, they're just not here for that. They're just not here for that.
They want to water paint.
Yeah, they want to
watercolor.
They want to do watercolor, and they want to like sing a song or write a poem or whatever.
And then we get the sesqui square 7, and then there's nothing. The void of course
And then the void of
begins.
course begins. Yeah.
This is why I think it's so strange, because we have the opposition to Mercury. So we're having some sort of outward emotional, expression of something here.
Yeah.
And then we get the void of course begins. We're not really going to be able to start anything soon or new. I'm sorry, new. And then 710, we get the sesqui square to Mars and Leo. That's just feeling frustrated and angry.
Yep.
And it's like displaced anger.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get
Mars and Leo, displaced anger.
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
And then we get Mercury quintile Chiron, which is like, I think that there's like some sort of wisdom around your wound, right? Where you're just like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And what
well, and I like with the quintile, I think it's going to be this good opportunity. Like there's going to be something that harkens back to a wound that you experienced.
Yeah, that you may be able,
that you can speak on it, that you can kind of synthesize it with whatever we're dealing with right now in real time.
And then 923.
Yeah, moon 923, moon in Capricorn, sesqui square, Uranus.
And that's just
which
frustration.
Sucks. Yeah, it's just not the best way to end the night.
I also think that it feels like trauma.
Yeah, which would make sense with the Mercury quintile Chiron coming right before, right? Like it's almost like we're digging up.
And an emotional trauma. So and I don't mean like, well, actually it could be anything. The moon is, I think it's moving a little slow this day. And mind you, as we go into the next day, the void of course has started at 8:55 a.m. on Thursday. And then we are going to go into Friday, June 13th. We need to take into account that the moon is void all day today.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like whatever starts, it may not come to pass, like actually come to pass. If anything new like begins, any conversations or arguments or, don't sign a contract on this day.
No.
Not unless you wanted to go.
I think this is just going to be like a couple of days of processing. Like that's the best way to use these days is just process and don't get too attached to anything.
Yeah.
Like practice the hangman kind of vibes,
We do have 7:35 a.m. The sun in Gemini is going to square the nodes at 22 degrees and 50 minutes. So I think this is like it's like a soul choice checkpoint.
Yeah.
Like which way do we ultimately need to go? This is the eclipse midpoint. So we are now, congratulations, halfway to another round of eclipses that will be coming. I believe it's September.
And I do really think when we're talking about eclipse midpoints, it's September and it's going to be Virgo and then Aries, right? So stay tuned. But I really I think what is really interesting about eclipse midpoints is whether you realize it or not, you've come to a fork in the road. And whatever road you choose to take is going to lead you to the eclipse in September, and you're going to get a reflection of kind of like the consequences of whichever path you chose to take. Yeah. So eclipse midpoints are like a fork in the road.
Yeah.
And especially with Gemini. Yeah. Right.
Again, I think it's
many forks.
Yeah. I just think it's like more bifurcation. Yeah. I think that the splitting that continues to happen within like our society and cultures, like many cultures, right, are all dealing with these splits and rifts and the awareness of how two-sided things are. Bipartisan, kind of that word. And the sun in Gemini has to do with information and communication and processing, mental processing. And in a natal chart, when you see the sun square the nodes, this can bring up issues that have to do with the ego being actually integrated. It hasn't been integrated in the past lifetime. And so now there's lessons and choices about how one goes forth trying to integrate these like creative ego lessons. Sun square the nodes in a natal chart is rough. I'm just like, oof.
I know.
Buddy.
I have a couple of those people in my life.
Yeah, I do too. It's not great.
Do you have any node squares?
I have Juno square the nodes.
Interesting.
Yeah, from my 7th house.
Interesting.
Yeah. Wow. Juno and Pisces.
So you're in like a really interesting point in your life right now. as far as like soul evolution.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like for me with Juno square the nodes, it's about like finding the right partner to partner with, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I
And
have Venus square the nodes, so I have no idea what you're talking
woof,
about.
woof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, square the nodes. It's called skip step.
Yeah.
Something didn't integrate in
Something
past
didn't integrate.
lives, and now in
Now
this
that's
life,
a lesson.
yep. And it's at least, God, I hope that it's in this lifetime that you actually synthesize and heal it.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
if you find in your chart, if you're aware of your chart and you have not heard about skip steps, and you see a planet that is square your nodes in it, you're going to want to imagine that you're standing on the planet, looking in towards the middle of the chart, and then the node that's to your left is the integration node. That is the node that you point yourself to in order to integrate the skipped thing. So, you know, and keeping that in mind, when the sun is square the nodes for this particular chart, we are going to want to, if you go like that, it would be the North Node in Pisces is still the integration point. So it's everything is still pointing us to, it's like release old criticisms and old analysis and old pieces of information.
Yeah.
And like embrace like the mystery, right?
Yeah.
Pisces.
Well, yeah. And also just like the intense mutable energy coming from all this. It really is like let go, let God, and go with the flow.
Yeah.
Like allow the changes to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a huge part of this. And yeah, I think that like when we're talking about square the nodes in a natal chart being a skip step, when we're seeing this happen kind of on the collective scale, we're like, where have we collectively not been integrating matters of ego?
Yeah.
Right. And I can think of a few ways.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that, I think that it also has to do with our president. I was trying to look up. I have his chart. He's that motherfucker's a Gemini.
What degree?
I am trying to find my, I have so many things on because I am a Gemini moon.
Beep boop bop.
It's very beep boop bop. Here we go. I have his chart. We have.
I don't think we should get special on his.
Yeah, his sun is at 22 with the nodes. So he's his.
Oh, did you see almost face planted going up?
But I think that so there's something here, right? Yeah. So in one day we'll just like dig into his chart.
I think we should do a special where we dig into
on the day of his death. It's very bleak.
It'll be. Are you kidding? That would be a day of celebration.
Listen, we will have champagne on.
Yeah,
film. Like,
we are going to make a special if this motherfucker dies. But also like there is a lot going on for him right now with Elon Musk just like being like, okay, fuck you, bro.
Yeah, but it's basically his birthday. It's his birthday almost.
What day is this? He's the 13th.
His birthday is the 14th.
Oh, so this is going to be the day before his birthday.
So I think it's his solar return, actually, because his sun is at 2255.
Dude, it is.
This is going to be, yep.
His solar return is going to be squaring the nodes in Pisces and Virgo.
Yep. And the sun in a mundane chart has to do with like rulership and the king.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker is essentially, his chart becomes our chart. And so there is something here about how our leaders behave. Yeah. Juicy.
So annoying.
Nuts.
So annoying.
But yeah, so I think this is a critical point. This is a choice point for how we go forward collectively and how our leadership goes forward. You know, that sun in Gemini is going to be ruled by that Mercury in Cancer. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of emotional, ruled by that moon in, what's the moon in Cap?
Capricorn still. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
it all ends out with like some cardinality at the end. Mutable to cardinal. Options to action. So yeah, so that's how that's just how Friday starts, is with Gemini square the nodes. And there's a lot of more minor aspects throughout the day, and some dreamy stuff. Yeah, like nothing huge. And then at 2:30, we've got Moon in Capricorn trining The
South Node in Virgo at 22 degrees.
Something's facilitating a release.
Yeah, and I just feel like that's particularly significant today since it's going to be coinciding with Sun squaring the nodes, right?
Agreed. And then we get the moon in Capricorn, quincunx the sun in Gemini.
Yes, so... I feel like Capricorn is literally coming in and just like slapping everybody's hands.
Yeah.
You know,
emotional adjustment needing to be made. Like it's like our emotions and our ego.
Yeah.
Right? They're not jiving.
They're not driving. Along. They haven't been synthesized. They don't really, you know, we haven't taken accountability for something, and Moon and Capricorn is coming in and being like, all right, bitch. Yeah. Time to take some accountability here.
Yeah. And then Moon square Chiron.
Oh my God, that day's gonna kind of suck.
So I don't think that
emotional bad feelings.
Yeah, I think some sort of emotional wounding. So I think that Friday is gonna feel pretty. I don't know. Is it almost like a stagnancy? I don't know.
I think critical. I think again, like because again, void of course moon throughout the whole thing. I really do feel like it's just gonna be like receiving information and just having to process it. Now, as far as you know, if something really major happens on the world stage, even if it does happen on that day, it's still just going to be all of us collectively watching it happen and being like, oh, you know, like that's, you can't immediately, well, I don't know, if Trump died, maybe there would be like parties out in the streets. Oh, which would also be very Sun and Gemini.
Feel partying in the streets. Like Oakland would go off.
Go the fuck off.
Like if my dog is getting desensitized to fireworks right now because I live in Oakland. And if Oakland does anything, it's
really going to set his progress back.
Well, no, just yesterday during the day, a daughter-father team were setting off fireworks for like a good 45 minutes, like not within like a block.
Oh my God. Was he okay?
I mean, he's just like, now he just runs to us and we hold him, but like it's wild.
That's hilarious.
Okay.
Oh, and doesn't he have all that Capricorn in his chart too?
He's an Aquarius. He's
Capricorn?
Aqua Capricorn, yeah.
Dink.
Anyways, let's go into Saturday, June 14th. Saturday is Saturn's day.
Yeah, and we are starting off 12:50 a.m. There's a moon quincunx to Mars, which is fine, I guess. I mean, it sucks.
I also think that this day, all things considered, moon trine Uranus, moon by quintile sun. And then the moon will enter Aquarius and is going to say, okay, now we need to like detach from like all of these like weird deep feelings or feeling like we have to set up a boundary here and block there. Like now we're trying to like kind of get free and liberate ourselves from whatever the fuck was going on there.
Yep.
Once the moon enters Aquarius, the void of course ends. And so now we're in a space. I think we're feeling spicy. Not that I've never met an Aquarius that wasn't spicy.
Yeah.
They are. They have a little edge to them.
I particularly love Aquarius's spiciness because it's not like in your face spicy. It's very much like side comments or a look.
Yeah.
And then they'll just walk away and it's like a slow burn, right? It's like someone hits you and you don't feel it quite yet until they walk away, and then all of a sudden you're like, ow.
Yeah. The sarcasm that can exist in an Aquarius. It's
with sarcasm.
Really quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
But we'll have a moon quincunx Jupiter in Cancer, and then a moon sextile Saturn and Neptune. So we have the moon coming up and meeting all of these big guys in the early degrees. And so it's like, hey, like Jupiter, like what do you want to do? And Jupiter's like, I want to expand. And Moon's like, I can't really do that right
now. I want to expand, except for that. But yeah, you made a good point. Like it's going to be sextiling Saturn, sextiling Neptune, quincunx Jupiter. So, and all of these things are within the first 2 degrees of their journey. And we talked about it before, where anytime you're in those early degrees, we really are setting the stage, right? Yeah. So Moon in Aquarius is doing something to set the stage with these signs, and I think in matters relating to Aquarius, so matters relating to
The
community,
people.
the collective, the people, right? Which, if something does happen
Mm-hmm.
on this day regarding Trump, it'll be really interesting because it's almost, this would be indicating that everybody's kind of like, okay, so what does this mean for all of us?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Especially with that like gentle sextile. It's not like a crazy thing, but it's kind of everyone being like, okay, well, what does this mean for us?
Yeah.
Right? Um, and then 10:26 a.m. Moon conjunct retrograde Pluto in Aquarius. Which obviously with Moon Pluto conjunctions, that is
Let's.
deep and intense.
Yeah, there's an intensity.
Yeah. It's in area Aquarius, so not quite so like digging into the depths and like disemboweling your emotional state, but there definitely is still kind of
It feels investigative.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely, especially with Aquarius, with Aquarius wanting to be a little more detached. We're still going to go into those depths, but yeah, it's almost going to feel like snooping around in someone else's house
Mm-hmm.
kind of vibes, right?
I don't know. I mean, anytime I see, I don't know, I think about Aquarius through, unfortunately, the lens of trauma.
Yeah,
And
I mean that's because
because
it's valid.
it is a trauma signature. It's,
Mm-hmm.
like getting hit by lightning and not knowing how to recover because it's so sudden. It's so literally traumatic to like the body. And so I think about like our collective trauma of having this fucking president.
And just living in the world as it is now. It's
Yeah.
not even just Trump. It's too easy to put it all on Trump, but it's like the collective trauma of all of us living through climate change and like the slow collapse of
Mm,
capitalism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah.
Witnessing genocide.
I mean, it'll be really interesting too once Pluto and Uranus do trine, which Uranus will when it enters Gemini later this year. So I'm interested to just kind of know what we're moving into that place. But in any case, sorry, I digress. Every time I think about Aquarius, I think about trauma. I'm gonna write a poem about it.
Oh my god, I want to hear the poem.
But yeah, there's a depth here. We have, Moon Pluto, we do have Saturn Neptune. That Moon Pluto is ruled by that Saturn. Something about limitation of our own individuality or identity or how we're able to operate in some sort of way, I think having to do with why we're feeling so intensely about things. Um do you think Saturn in Aries is the era of telling men to shut the fuck up?
It better be.
I think it
I
is.
think it is. And man, we should dig into what you said the other day about time dilating because I
Oh,
had
yeah.
been Saturn in Aries is just going to be a wild ride. And I do think we're going to see things. Yeah, I think that a lot of things are going to start accelerating, right? And kind
Yeah.
of like come into this pinpoint. And I do think part of it is going to be like, because we've been talking about patriarchy for decades now, just speaking strictly from like a Western US perspective, decades, centuries at this point, we've been talking about patriarchy.
Mhm.
But I think we are kind of at a culminating point of like, but this is what actually happens when unchecked toxic
Mhm.
patriarchy, uh,
Yeah.
is allowed to run amok.
I mean,
And yeah, I
Aries
do because Aries is just like the sign of masculinity.
virility
Yeah.
and Neptune's like,
And aggression.
yeah, it's all about like you gotta do
All the
all
things that we
the
associate with masculinity, it's all under Aries.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's like the purest form of masculinity that
mhm.
is kind of available to us inside of the zodiac, right?
Yeah.
It's the pioneer, it's the warrior, it's the fighter,
Yep.
it's the me first,
Mhm.
and Saturn is putting a limit on that. It's like, actually, no,
Yeah.
like that's
Stop
not
it.
what gets, stop it.
Stop
So
it.
it's interesting to know, like, just to have like the mental, like play the mental game where you just kind of sit there and it's like, what could that be? And like, how is that going to express itself?
Yeah.
Um, Where were we though? We're in
Dude, I also. What were we talking about?
8:57 p.m. Moon square Venus and Taurus.
Okay.
This feels like a self-soothe.
Yeah.
Like I gotta go and do something to feel better about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, and it's also like it's fixed by nature. I think that like what Aquarius and Taurus have in common is they just want to go somewhere and just like hide and be cozy.
Yeah, they
Right?
just wanna no.
Yeah. They're like, I need to do this my way,
Yeah.
figure this out myself.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
and it's not like very ego driven the same way that like Leo and Aries are. It's very much like I literally can't process
This is my
with other
cozy.
people
This is my
around.
comfy. It is
Yeah.
what it is. It
Yeah.
feels like it is what it is.
It is what it it is what it
It is what it is. But like, the moon in general, well, the moon is going to love Venus in Taurus because
Yeah.
it will receive Taurus by exaltation.
Yeah,
So
I think that's overall actually gonna be nice.
in any of the ways that like a moon in Aquarius needs to detach, the Venus in Taurus is like, but like, let's get comfortable, let's get safe.
Yep.
There's stuff, the fixed signs have a lot of stuff around security.
Yeah.
So there's something there as well.
Yeah. I mean, with the square, it could very much be needing to respond to not feeling safe. Right.
Yeah.
Like
Needing to release something or detach from the
Yeah.
feelings of not feeling safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe create new systems around like how to feel safe, that kind of thing.
Yeah, an awareness.
Yeah. So it's like a little uncomfy, but I do think that there are opportunities for
Yeah. I do think that this
working with it.
day actually feels like we're getting somewhere, we're doing something.
Well, I think just the fact that it starts off with a moon Uranus trine, that always feels like a very like,
Yeah.
all right, let's like move things along here
Yeah.
a little bit. So yeah, Saturday's not the worst.
Not the worst, not the best.
Not the worst, not the best.
Sunday, June 15th,
Yep.
Mars is anoretic.
And squaring Uranus.
Yeah. This is the biggie, I think. If we haven't already witnessed violence in the collective somewhere, like the kind of stuff that brings endings to things, because it's in Saturn's bound. Both of these are in Saturn's bound at this point. This is the day.
Yeah.
Because you usually see it to the perfect, but not necessarily in the separation. It's in the applying to perfect places.
Yep. So it's a fixed square. It's Mars in Leo squaring Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is also getting into its last degrees. So yeah, I think this one's big.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely like, have you been paying attention? Because here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that there's potential for obvious potential for violence. The first thing that's coming to mind, because obviously there is violence happening everywhere all the time right now. Like we are living in very violent times. The Uranus really wants to like shake things up and wants to like bring something into view, right?
Yeah.
And so I wonder if like this, obviously it's fucked up and sad to say, but could this be the moment where we start witnessing violence toward people that actually make people care? I.e., are we going to start seeing white people experiencing violence, right? We're starting to hear the rumblings of like people are being deported from the US who are white or are people of privilege who had visas who are getting removed. Is that what it's going to take for people to suddenly be like, oh, you know what? This is really bad. Something like that, something where it just like is right in your face, or just like not even just white people, but just people who kind of live in relative comfort in the Western world. Like the thing that's coming into my head right now is like we're having a lot of conversations about the genocide happening in Palestine right now.
Right.
And it's still very easy to kind of think of that in terms of like we know that it's bad, but it's very difficult for it to not have some level of abstraction for anybody who lives in the Western world, just because we don't experience
that unless
firsthand.
They themselves are Palestinian or Jewish or have friends that are experiencing like the faraway land coming and touching them.
Right.
For sure.
So what does it take for it to stop feeling abstract and for it to feel real is for when the violence actually starts happening to you. So that's what I'm kind of wondering is Mars square Uranus going to be like even the people who thought they were safe are going to start experiencing that violence.
I'm wondering if there's going to be a new strategy that kind of comes up as a result of this. And I say that because Pallas Athena is actually going to be in a fixed T-square with Uranus and Mars.
Yeah.
So it's like, as a result of this violence, a new strategy or awareness of wisdom that the people have taken on is going to take some sort of effect. If we think about the empty leg would be in Scorpio somewhere. So something about elimination, transformation.
Yep.
Definitely about violence.
Yeah.
I mean, I also think that there's something about the realization that we don't get free without there being some sort of trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we're beyond peaceful protest.
Yeah. So okay, so something else interesting that I've noticed in natal charts, I have seen Mars square Uranus in people who like came out late in life, or they like something happened with their sexuality, but it was a really jarring realization for them,
liberation,
right? Or they like came from like a really religious upbringing, and so like their family disowned them when they came out. Like a fissure. Right? Yeah, like there was a necessary trauma in order for them to be able to. So it's things like that. I agree with you. I think that Mars square Uranus can just as much be about like there could be a really good motivating energy with Mars, but it's that kind of thing of there's always a give and take, right? Even if we do find that motivation, or if we, figure out how to have a new strategy or whatever, it is going to force us to necessarily confront some trauma or create a new trauma, for sure. Yeah. It's kind of like it can, and I think that's kind of the nature of Uranus, right? It's like you have to take the good with the bad. Like I think Uranus is always going to give us really important insights, but it often has to be through trauma.
And it always, I think, yes, and to add to it, Uranus is the great liberator.
Yeah.
The liberation at any cost.
Yeah.
It is not about good or bad.
Right.
I think depending on, how Uranus operates in one person's chart versus another, they would say, oh, Uranus is a malefic versus a benefic. I personally see it as a very neutral, big, sideways marble in the sky that literally just says, if you weren't already actively seeking your own liberation and freedom and pure authenticity in this world, I will do it for you.
Yep. I agree.
So I think that if you are a person who is actively turning away from your own authenticity, Uranus is there to rock your shit.
Yeah.
And if you are actively seeking your own sense of freedom and liberation, Uranus is here to just be like, let's rock and roll, baby. Like it's not the traumatic thing that it can be in some people's charts. Like some people literally just need to get the shit knocked out of them. The snot shaken out of them. And then other folks are just like, one day they wake up and they're like, I shaved my head and I'm free now.
Yeah. It really do be like that. You're right.
Uranus is in a great place in
this feels very like fixed versus mutables, right? The fixed signs, you're gonna have to like throw them out a window to get them to get the picture.
Yeah, you have to like
the mutable signs are just like, I just woke up and felt different today.
100%.
Yeah,
if you have a lot of fixity in your chart, Uranus probably feels really scary because fixed placements want to stay right where they're at. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Uranus says, actually, that's broken.
Yeah, it's broken.
So I think we are. I keep thinking about the outer planets as we have them all either about to end things. Uranus is about to go into Gemini. We're going to get a whole bunch of new technology, which is going to be really exciting. But thinking about Saturn and Neptune and Pluto, and I keep thinking about these outer planets, like because of the cardinality of Saturn and Neptune being in that anoretic world point place where we're like, there's something to pay attention here about our structures and about our dreams, our collective visions are like out for display and up for renegotiation. And then I think about Pluto that is going to go out of bounds in September for the last time for thousands of years. I think about this at night. I think that where we are right now in time, by the time we get to 2030, will be a completely different place.
Yeah.
So like whatever structures you're trying to set up in life, I think we all just need to collectively go and continue to ask ourselves every day, where is the source of my authenticity?
Yeah.
And where is the source of our collective liberation? Because I'm going to continue to point my boat in that direction, because that is where I'm going to get pulled.
Yeah.
Regardless.
And we just are living in that age. And I love what you said, our collective liberation, because I think it's also like the very first thing you think of is, but how do I stay safe? And our safety
depends on everybody's.
Depends on everybody's. And you are going to find that safety in that collective liberation. And there's, again, with Uranus, there's no other way.
Yeah.
And we're all going to learn that. Everybody's chart is going to have them kind of have their own personal realization in their own way. But I think that's ultimately, I think that's kind of where it's moving us.
Yeah.
Especially because we're just kind of reaching the end of this collective experiment of like, what's the word I'm thinking of? The individuality of the U.S. My brain is crapping out.
It was like McDonald's.
McDonald's.
Sorry. That's what it looked like to me.
McDonald's, which weirdly also feels relevant. But anyway, just being super individualistic.
Yeah.
I think we're coming to the end of that collective experiment of thinking that like that's the way that we can live.
I think that there's a reckoning with the individuality that America is forced down our throat.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to get at. And there's like a term like that. It's like a Latin term, and I just like cannot pull it out of my brain right now. But
so we have Mars square Uranus. Just know that this energy has been building all week. And it's still here come Sunday, the Sun's day.
Yep.
And then at 7:36 a.m. we have Jupiter square Saturn.
This day is gonna rock your shit.
This day is so wild because never mind that Mars is anoretic. It is at a critical juncture. It is trying to wrap up its time in Leo, right? It's like real dramatic. It is at its most dramatic point, actually. I'm gonna end this shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull this car around right now.
Watch me, bitch.
Yeah. That's what it feels like. I cannot wait for Mars to exit Leo,
though. I mean, that's got Mars moving through your 12th house, right?
Yeah.
That's a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's Mars square Uranus actually squares Uranus sitting on top of my Mars.
Oh, so this is gonna fuck you up.
I just get a Mars square with Uranus sitting there.
Got it.
I mean, Uranus through my 9th, because it's been on top of my Taurus stellium, has all been about like all of the astrology school and all of that stuff for me.
Yeah.
So I've always been like very exploratory. I'm mercurial anyway, so I'm very curious about everything. So it hasn't been like violent or weird for me. Thankfully, I just entered a Lord of the Year for Jupiter, and Mars is not my Lord of the Year, but he is my Lord of the month.
Got it.
So
this is gonna be.
I'm interested.
Well, you're also a person who's always been very open about your relationship with Uranus. You love Uranus.
I do.
You love Uranus. So I feel like you always kind of welcome that chaos a little bit. I think your Gemini moon is like.
I mean, like for all of the Taurus stuff in my chart, at least from what I'm able to understand, is very
Mhm.
much about me getting to a place of feeling very secure and stable in like how I believe in things
Mhm.
and not being as mutable as
Yep.
I can be, because I can be so mutable and I have so much mutability in my chart, especially from an evolutionary standpoint. Like I'm just like, sure, go with the flow.
Yeah.
Like people are like, you seem so grounded. I'm like, not inside. That's cool.
That's cute that you think that.
Yeah, so it's very
Mhm.
like it's having like two very different experiences at once.
Mhm.
Look at Betty. She's so beautiful.
She's perfect. Can the camera see her? Probably
No, probably not, but
not.
just
Mm-mm.
know that Betty is beautiful.
She just sighed and it was really cute.
But so Jupiter squares Saturn. Jupiter expands.
Jupiter expands, Saturn
Saturn
restricts.
restricts.
So there is absolutely a clash between these two titans, right? These are two kind of heavyweight planets right now. One is about expansion, one is about
It
restriction. Which
feels
one's going to win
like
out?
a kid joyfully bouncing its basketball, ready to like go and like make its layup, and then
Mhm.
like Jordan comes out and just
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna be like Shaq or Jordan, just like
yeah,
nope.
yeah. It
And the
feels
little kid was just thinking, they're like, man, I'm starting to get pretty good at
like
basketball.
it's so good. I'm feeling like it's so
Got their brand new Air Jordans on.
yeah.
You
It's like
know?
this. It's such an interesting thought exercise to think like Jupiter just entered its sign of exaltation and wants to explore through these like new feeling,
Mhm.
sensing. It wants to expand its sense of security,
Mhm.
safety, like all
Mhm.
of that. And then Saturn's like, no,
Mhm.
like, no, but it's a cardinal square.
Yeah.
So we're trying to take some
Mm.
sort of action.
But I think like the flip side, because it's always easy to kind of put Saturn in the position of being like the boss, right? But I think Jupiter and Saturn are kind of equal matches, and so I think it could also be like Saturn wanting to put a cap on things, and Jupiter be like, no, 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 no,
That's real.
you know,
Yeah. Well, and
you
also
know,
Saturn's in the sign of its fall,
exactly.
and Jupiter's in the sign of
And
its
it's exaltation. So
exaltation.
I think Jupiter might win out here, and I think it's gonna just like expand, 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 and it's kind of like the floodwaters rising,
Yeah.
and Saturn's just got like tissue paper that it's trying to stuff into the drain holes, right?
Saturn is in an overcoming square though, so it is dominant.
Mhm.
But it's like weirdly dominant in a bad way.
I think that there's uh if it's not entirely equally matched, I do think that they're both coming with, you know, with some pretty
Yeah, there's
good
like
hooks,
some good things and some bad things
Yeah.
about both.
I it just feels like there's gonna be a lot of push pull, I think.
And the moon is in what sign for this?
It's still gonna be
It's still in
in
Aquarius.
Aquarius, yeah. So
Interesting.
it's fixed. And well, traditionally that's Saturn's
Yeah.
Saturn sign. But
Yeah. But Jupiter square Saturn is also has to do with the economy. It has to do with
yeah.
money. Jupiter has to do with money,
Yep.
trade,
Yep.
right? Import, export.
Mhm.
Saturn has to do with
International relations.
yeah, has to
Yep.
yeah, all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Who we're dealing with, who we're trading
Mhm.
with, who we're shipping our things to, who's
Yep.
shipping stuff back to us.
Yep. And then
Saturn
Saturn's kind of creating all of the structures that allow that to
all of
happen.
the organization around it. And
Yeah.
so there's definitely something about, our money that's
Mhm.
going to be coming up, or about trade, in it
Yeah.
specifically about trade.
Yeah.
And so
Money and
that's
trade.
why I'm like, something
Especially
about
that, and that feels
the
very
tariffs.
like Jupiter Saturn, right? Is just
Yeah.
like that push pull between like what's going on with these tariffs.
Or what was the effect?
And I do know that there's a lot of like, but I like the rumors that you hear behind the scenes right now is that everybody's like these tariffs are insane, and
Well,
like
they're not
knowing
happening now.
exactly, yeah.
But I think that the weird time
Mm-hmm.
was just enough time to create an issue that now we're going to have to deal with.
Well, it's just like the whole thing where we basically
Retroactive.
we basically just like fucking destroyed our relationship with Canada for no reason. For no reason. And you can't just say like, oops, sorry, we take it back. Like, you
Oopsie
can't do that.
doodles.
Yeah, like, and I think that was very Jupiter and Gemini, is realizing that like you can't just unsay shit that you say, you know? Like, even if the rest of the US is collectively like, hey, Canada, we don't feel that way. Canada's like, okay, but you elected the guy who did say it, right?
Yeah, y'all did
So
that.
y'all did that. You can't just say that you didn't.
Yeah.
So, and that's just like one example. It's like, even though we're not doing the tariffs now, he put like the international economy under so much stress. He put the stock market under so much stress just in that short amount of time.
Yeah.
Like, just to be chaotic, like chaos for the sake of chaos.
Yeah.
You can't, even though it stopped and even though it didn't last very long, it was still enough for people to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Jupiter
is within 2 degrees of quincunxing Pluto, retrograde Pluto. And so I think that there's some sort of, in particular, an adjustment needs to be made by Jupiter in Cancer, right?
Yeah.
Saturn is within that same 2 degrees of sextiling. So it's like, yeah, I'm down to restructure. Like I can easily kind of do that sextile, whereas Jupiter is being forced to reconsider something about how it's trying to expand.
And I think with Jupiter and Saturn being still at that first degree, I think this is kind of setting the stage for what we can expect for Jupiter's journey through Cancer and Saturn's journey through Aries. I think like what you just said, that's kind of going to be the core conflict as we move through.
Sounds like fun. Signs. Love that for us.
Good stuff. Well, with Jupiter, I mean, it could be fun with Jupiter and Cancer. I mean,
once Jupiter is free of this square, we're in better territory.
Well, exactly. Saturn, and it could be like you need that necessary pain, because like it's just like what we've been talking about with all things, like nothing can stay the way it's been. We're already past the point, like we're just not in a place where we can or should feel comfortable right now. And unfortunately, Cancer loves being cozy. And I think it is just kind of like begging the question of like, what's our new cozy look like?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could be like a good moment for Cancer. A little like evolution moment for Jupiter and Cancer.
I love how you said evolution. That's exactly right. This has to do with our evolution.
Exactly.
Whatever this crisis is.
Yeah. Like literally our human evolution is hinging on these
and
aspects.
And also it's a first quarter square. So this is a crisis of awareness. We become aware of an issue that has to do with Jupiter and Saturn things.
Yeah.
This is trade. This is structure. This is money. Yep. This is government. We are now aware, keenly aware of an issue that was probably, that was definitely probably caused around the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. It also have to do with health. Anyways, let's keep moving forward. Hi, baby.
Sweet girl.
Monday, June 16th. The square to Saturn, these are slow moving planets, are going to hold for a while.
Yeah. So everything we just talked about still applies.
Yeah. I also realized that we're like talking really, really fast. And I think that's because Jupiter is at the very last moments. I'm like,
and then this, I have one more thing to say.
Just like blitting out. But okay.
So we've also been how long is this one going to be?
Forever.
Forever.
Monday, June 16th. Monday is the moon's day. Moon is in Aquarius for the morning. 1:01 a.m. Mercury in Cancer. Semi square Uranus and Taurus. This is like argument. It's like a sudden argument around like resourcing safety and security.
Yep.
So that doesn't feel great, and
it could also be rumination. I think, especially as it's like middle of the night.
Well, and also
who's having a fight at 1 a.m?
Well, and it's kind of like that has to do with the Mars square Uranus, because like, now there's some information about, maybe that's the information that comes out about whatever this Mars square Uranus the day before.
Yeah.
We have the moon will trine the sun, usually a feel-good aspect. However, like this is communicative trine. Moon in Aquarius with the sun in Gemini. So there's some sort of information realization here. 4:30 a.m. moon sextile Chiron, the ability to, do enough detaching to heal or do some sort of healing here. Moon square Uranus, 9:18 a.m. Saturn, information that has to do with like integration of emotions, feeling emotionally upset, shock, surprise. Again, that lights up that Mars square Uranus aspect that happened the day before. Oh, and then I wrote this little note. So 10:30 a.m., the moon is going to oppose Mars.
Yep.
And it's going to sesqui square Mercury.
As the void, of course, begins.
Yes. But these two things together, right, I think is like a very intense, anxiety-ridden, angry, and volatile argument that might have to also become a bit violent.
Yeah.
Because Mars is still within that square to Uranus.
Yep.
It's like that you're at like a grocery store and someone bumps into you and you're like, hey man, like, yo. And then they just lose their shit and you're like, oh no, you're actually unwell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're like, oh fuck.
And then I found myself in a situation that I can't get out of.
Guess I get to fight you.
Yep.
That's kind of what it feels like to me, like when I was thinking about it. Because I was like, this is anaretic. Mars has not changed signs. It's at 29 degrees. So it's coming up and it's having this last moment here.
Yeah.
It's doing that sesqui square to Mercury. So it's intense emotional anguish and anxiety around what we need to communicate.
Yeah.
And those things in Moon opposes Mars is like an emotional outburst.
Yeah. Well, and also Mercury's still going to be out of bounds, right?
So,
yeah. So like, it's going to suck. So yeah. And like, that was the first thing that came to mind when you were like, oh, and then the person ends up being like an unwell person, like out of bounds.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I can see it being something like that.
I just think Sunday and Monday we have to be really, really careful about what we're saying.
Yeah.
And where we are like physically placing our bodies.
Yeah, I think it's just that like we're going to get some like pretty jarring information this week. And then by the end of the week, it's kind of like, so how are you going to respond to it?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunities to maybe not respond in the best way.
Yeah.
So just tap into your higher selves, baby.
Yeah, like be real.
Do some meditating.
Be real spicy about that period of time. 11:09 a.m. The moon is going to enter Pisces. That's going to end the void, of course. That's just about an hour, like half an hour, 40 minutes long. So that's pretty chill. But the moon is going to enter, watery, sensitive, psychic, delusional Pisces.
Yep.
It's feeling all the feels. It's absorbing all of the data around it. Osmosis. Whenever I think of Pisces, I think of osmosis.
Yeah.
It's psychically sensing everything in the room, sending its tendrils out to kind of bring in things.
Doing something bigger than yourself. It's just something bigger than any one person.
Yeah. And then we get some semi-sextiles from the moon to Saturn, the moon to Neptune, and the moon to Pluto.
Yeah.
We do get a trine to Jupiter.
So we're like birthing some ideas here.
Yeah, there's like little shoots.
I was going to say, like, that was the first thing that came to my mind too, is just like little things just starting to come out of the dirt.
Yeah, but you're not quite like...
You're not quite sure. They might not even make it.
Is it a tulip or is it a rose?
Yeah. Or is it just going to get squashed or eaten?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Or can it even germinate?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the thing. But that trine to Jupiter is actually quite lovely, if only because it just, again, there's something more intuitive here.
Yeah, I feel like it's actually going to be a little bit of a salve. Yeah.
Soothe.
Yeah. Soothe.
Yeah.
Soothe. We're gonna be processing a lot this week, and I think like Monday is going to bring us this little gift of hope. I mean, trine to Jupiter always just feels a little bit hopeful.
With some new ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's I think that this week is big. I think this
is a big week.
I think it's gnarly.
It's a big week.
And considering that we're like literally stepping into this week that we're talking about like right now.
Yeah.
As we speak.
See, this is why I like it better that we're doing it in real time.
We did miss a week.
That's true.
Because we got sick.
Yeah.
But I think that this week is really intense. I think that if you avoid...
Wait, where is that full moon hitting in your chart?
The full moon is hitting my moon.
Oh yeah, it's opposing your moon. We talked about that.
Yeah, opposing my moon and my nodes. It's on my nodes. It's
on your nodes too.
Yeah. Because I have moon north node.
Oh yeah, we have flipped nodes, don't we?
Yeah,
you and I have our nodes flipped.
Mine is in the 10th.
Yeah. But what sign is
Gemini?
Yours in Gemini. Yeah. Mine north node's in Sag. So this full moon is hitting our nodes.
it would be really good for, I think, for everybody to kind of look at in their chart where Uranus is wrapping up its time.
Yep.
Because Mars is going to come and whammy it for the last time, because Uranus is a 164-year cycle. So we're not going to have this particular fixed square for a while. We won't be alive for it.
Nope.
Fantastic. Love that for us.
Our, what's the opposite of ancestor? Our forebears?
Sure.
Yeah. They'll be experiencing whatever we haven't dealt with now. That's a fun way to think about it.
Yikers.
Better deal with it now so that your, great grandchildren don't have to.
Mars Uranus could also be earthquake.
Dude, there's been a lot of earthquake energy happening.
I mean, also we live in California.
Yeah.
So.
I don't just mean here, and like all the volcanoes going off and shit. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as a reminder too, for this week, because we have full moon energy, this is a time to release. Uranus is going to perhaps force some sort of release if you are not willing to do so. So looking at where Uranus is in the chart is important. Looking at where Cancer is in the chart, Jupiter is in the chart, Sag and Pisces, all of these things are kind of getting, I would say,
like mutable energy in general. Like, where is your mutable energy?
In my angles,
in your
baby.
Angles. My mutables are in my mutables, so I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. This isn't going to affect me at all.
But full moons are about releasing. You can do some ritual to determine or to make plans around what you want to release. And it's like releasing, old beliefs you might have and old ideas, because it has
old
to
habits.
do with habits. But it has to do with Gemini and Sag, right?
Yeah.
The mutable things and right brain, left brain, the things you tell yourself and the stories that you believe.
Yeah. And I think like the things that we were taught versus what the new things that we are learning. I think there's a lot going on there. Like, what were you taught? What were you told? What information did you receive that is no longer, that you're now realizing isn't accurate or isn't true or doesn't apply to you?
Yeah.
Because Sag and Gemini are very, cerebral in that way.
Yeah, I think it's a week of working on that.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, definitely it's going to be a lot of just things like happening to us. I do think you can do some ritual this week.
Yeah.
But
reminder that Friday, June 13th, the moon is void of course all day. Don't go grocery shopping.
Yeah, don't go grocery shopping.
Try to chill out.
Yeah, I would say this would be, make it a cozy day maybe. I don't know if you can, but
yeah.
So it's gonna be Friday the 13th, so that's fun.
Ooh, yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, maybe go get a tattoo.
Moon Square Chiron.
Moon Square Chiron. They always have those good, the good flash sales.
Oh my god. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. It could be a good day to go get a tattoo.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I think that's it.
Yeah, there's a card.
Blessings.
Contact us.
Good luck, y'all.
Peace.
See you later.